Hi, everyone. I have a couple of comments to make about your discussion this week, and I'll actually make these comments based on one of the video and the idea of coalition. Okay, so the 2 points I want to make really is one, coalitions are not perfect, and two, um, sometimes some communities have reason to fear the police. So we, I think, tend to like to glorify coalitions. And I understand that. They work very well, they can be very powerful and amazing, energetic, and lots of great work have been done through coalitions. I've been a part of a few in one of my past lives or some of my past lives. But what I want to say is that coalitions are not always positive. The experiences are not always positive, and people have been excluded in lots of ways, and they've been hurt and maligned. People coalitions sometimes people form fractions amongst themselves, and they become uh, um, little cliques that develop between this organization and that organization and members of this group and that group, and so sometimes it doesn't work as well. Sometimes coalitions become quite dysfunctional. Also, coalitions are sometimes they can be large, and when they're large it means that sometimes people can get lost in them. The other thing is coalitions, although we like to say that they're egalitarian and, diversity and inclusion and all those lovely things, in fact, they have pockets of power. And how I think about coalition a little bit is like collectivism in women's organizations, for example. I've been a part of a couple of women's collectives in sexual assault centers, um, uh, shelter for assaulted women and children, and also part of a collective at a center for teen moms, for example. And what I do remember in the collective is that there were certain people who had huge amount of power, and they used it well at times and abused it at times. So coalitions are not unlike collectives in a sense that there are different groups, different individuals within those groups that have pockets of power, and they can use them like a hammer to clobber people, or they can use them to poke you along or to get things done. So just remember that. That which you are, so your social location, parts of who you are, will also influence how people see you, how they respond to you, and whether or not they want to work with you, and how they work with you. So, for example, if you're part of a coalition and you have people who are considered to be quote unquote normal looking, for example, and they have straight hair, or regardless of race, let's say they have straight hair and hair that's considered presentable, and then you have people with body arts and locks like me, or braids, or spiked hair, or whatever. Sometimes what happens in those situations is that the people who tend to look more quote unquote normal are expected or encouraged to meet with certain public officials, for example, because they are more presentable. So these are just some examples about how coalition work and might not work, and what you might want to consider when you think of coalitions. The other point I want to make is police officers working with certain neighborhoods, people in certain neighborhoods. I was really so happy to see that video. Actually, I looked at all three pieces. Uh, the video about the communities in Ottawa, and I was quite struck when the police officer said, he used to walk down the street or on his bike and guess doing community policing, and people used to run in and close the door, and for good reason. So I find it quite ironic that this amazing program just happened in some neighborhoods in Ottawa, And in December, a report just came out in Ottawa that talked about the racial profiling and street checks of um, predominantly black and brown people. So here we go. The police is trying to suggest that they are working amazingly with the community, and quite clearly they did something there. But then on the other hand, they're racially profiling different groups of people, some of the same groups of people that they're helping in communities. And what is happening in Southern Ontario in some communities, for example, they're actually resisting police officers coming in to take up spaces in their communities, especially when they come in their uniforms, because what they're suggesting is that the police is creating a false sense of trust and security, because when they come into the neighborhood and give kids, serve kids pop and hot dog and hamburger, and they call it, community day, and the police are out 2 days later or 2 weeks later, they're harassing some of those same young children, handcuffing children that are underage at 12 years old, or bringing them to the police station without their parents. So I think it's really, really important that we think about, when we build coalition, what it looks like, who is a part of it, and again, the kind of pockets of power that are inherent in it. I thought it was interesting here again in this community development or share responsibility video, the series of them, how the people that were in the community organizations and had power, what they look like. Go back and look at those videos and see what they look like and what they represented, in those community-based or not-for-profit organizations, right? So take a look at those and see what you see. And the final comment I want to make is that, oh no, I think I made it. False sense of trust. I'm tired, guys. Time to go to bed. So false sense of trust that police are trying to create inside some of these communities, and people do get hurt as a result of that. Okay, that's it. Bye.